Okay, let's close our eyes for a moment. Okay, lesson 25. Today we have a look at asanas suggested by the Hatha Yoga Pradipika. Some of them very basic, some of them quite advanced. In the end, all of these poses, including the advanced poses, will appear on our schedule, but in the advanced course. Some of them in this course, some of the basic ones, and some of the more advanced ones like Kukuttasana and Mayurasana. Mayurasana you did already just as a kind of a play, as an experiment. But all poses eventually become part of the course as well. So last week we finished with Sutra 17 and we read Sutra 18, Chapter 1 of the Hatha Yoga Pradipika. I proceed to describe some of the asanas accepted by the sages as Vashista and yogins, such as Machendra. Soparama does an interesting thing here, yet again. He doesn't take credit for what he is presenting, like most authors would do. Most authors would say, I am suggesting this and that. He says, these are suggestions, asanas accepted by sages like Vashista and yogins such as Machendra. So he again is calling into being. He is associating what follows next with the highest authorities in yoga. Machendra is the first human being, according to yoga philosophy, coming out of the sea. So it is actually kind of asking for special attention. Pay attention, what follows. It's quite high quality because it's accepted by sages like Vashista and yogis like Machendra. Sutra 19, having correctly placed both soles of the feet between the thighs and the knees, one should sit balanced and straight-bodied. This is Svastikasana. Svastikasana we call Sukhasana. You can sit like this. The description is a little bit cryptical. The drawing accompanying this text is on the page before. Svastika, you know what svastika is? Korean people, you know what svastika is? No, European people and most American people also, they know because it has a very heavy load, where it comes to its meaning. Because it represents evil of the Second World War. Swastika. You can find this everywhere in Korea too. It's a Buddhist symbol. And every temple you can see the sign. I don't know if I drew it correctly, whether the arms are to the left or to the right. That's not so important. It is originally a Buddhist symbol that has been hijacked by the Nazis in the Second World War. So it represents all the evil, including killing 6 million Jews in the Second World War. I think the Nazis, for their purpose, they tilted the symbol. Not 100% sure. And it has something, I don't know exactly the meaning of swastika, I never researched it or so. It should be easy to find. It has something to do with balance, with sattva, with the elements that we also talk about in regard to the chakras. And you also recognize, of course, what looks like a cross. Christianity has a cross. It's all related. Swastika.
Ron, swasti in Sanskrit means, it usually translates as auspicious in English.
Auspicious?
Like the auspicious sign, something like that.
All right.
I'm not sure if that really has any meaning, but...
Yeah, auspicious. The word auspicious means something that is extraordinarily good. Inauspicious, that is the evil which is represented in the Second World War. Totally the opposite of the original meaning. Thank you.
I also, the sign that you showed, that is, you drew it going this way, clockwise.
Yeah.
And then it's also drawn the other way, going counterclockwise. So it's also a symbol of the flowing energy inwards or outwards as well.
Okay.
That is what I also learned.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next. Sutra 20. Place the right ankle next to the left buttock and the left ankle next to the right buttock. This is Gomukhasana and resembles the face of a cow. Go is a cow. Go. Mukha is face. So literally the cow face. I have seen many people do the cow face wrong because it's easier. What is described here is as follows. Your lower legs should stay together, and it totally changes the dynamic of the pose because you're floating. So it's a balancing pose. On top of that, it's very intense because of the strain that occurs, because you keep the lower legs together. How it is usually done is like this. Very easy. In total contradiction with the strain that occurs when you do it correctly. And maybe you even automatically start moving like a cow because of the discomfort. This is not the whole pose. Next, you join the hands behind the back. And you sit straight. Then because of the balancing element, it's rather sophisticated because balance directly stimulates the throat chakra, which is the portal to Ajna and Sahasrara chakra. Try it out. It's very interesting. The strain that occurs in the legs and the lower body forces energy to rise up. So it's, in a very natural way, it leads to a contemplative mind. So I'm switching legs now, because you cannot walk on one leg. Always have to switch asymmetric poses. Your lower legs first should stay together, and then when you sit back, do not allow the feet to separate. Try to sit down, Neda.
Oh my gosh.
There is no description of how you join the hands behind the back, but I always do it like this. My left leg goes over the right leg. My left arm goes over the top. So left leg, left arm.
Oh. My legs are separated.
No excuses. Have you looked at my legs? Can you feel in your tummy the energy? I feel it directly. Maybe it's mentioned also. Maybe not. Your lower legs should be more together from the start. That's why I start on my hands and knees, because only in this way you can put your lower legs together. And then when you sit back, maybe this is your problem. I have that too with my calf. So I make a little room here. So you don't allow your lower legs to separate, and that creates a very interesting dynamic that you do not have when the feet separating and end up sitting down. You came in at the right time.
Are your feet like this, or like how?
Uneven.
Okay.
It's impossible to have them at the same level.
Yeah. Okay.
Sutra 21. Place on the right foot firmly. Place one foot firmly on the other thigh and the right thigh on the other foot. This is called Virasana. Again, a very cryptical description that if you follow it literally, I think may cause severe problems, but actually it's very simple. You sit on your knees and then you spread your feet to accommodate the width of your hips, with the feet pointing back. The Virasana is the hero pose. In my daily routine, I always do this pose. It's incredibly strengthening the ankles and the knees. Ankles and the knees, as you know, are the most common injuries, not only in sports, but especially in sports, but also people just walking in the street, climbing stairs, etc., often injure ankles and or knees. The reason for that is your thighs and calves are huge muscles, strong muscles, that are connected by very delicate joints. So those joints easily get injured if they are not up to par, in line with the strength of those big muscles. And doing Virasana regularly will prevent you from having those injuries to the ankles and the knees. It will make them incredibly strong. Virasana has a variation called Supta Vira. And Supta means lying down or sleeping. So if you're sitting on the ground in Virasana, the next step is to lie down and increase the intensity.
Does your buttock touches the floor completely first, and then we go down?
Yeah, the way I learned it from Ajita is that before lying down, you must first be on the ground with the buttocks. Otherwise, the strain becomes too big. And instead of preventing injury, you might actually cause injury.
And the knees are totally
Knees together.
Should I avoid this pose if I have done a surgery before?
No, a good question. Should I avoid the pose if I had an injured knee before? I had surgery to my knee? That totally depends. I see you're sitting pretty comfortably in the pose. That means you're not suffering any serious pain. If you have weak knees or had an injury before, even surgery, the pose may actually help you to heal and gain strength so that the injury doesn't occur again. But always have to be careful. So that means you have to follow your feeling. If it doesn't feel good because too much pain, you just have to build it up slowly. How do you do that? Using a cushion. Anything that reduces the strain in the pose. If you're not able to sit on the ground yet, on the floor yet, and trying it out is too painful, then use a cushion. But use the cushion only to such extent that you still feel the challenge. Because if you make yourself comfortable, then it doesn't work anymore. So every time you do the pose, you reduce the support that the cushion gives you until one day you can just take it away. Always follow your feeling. If you're in doubt whether it can hurt you or not, if something is very painful, it will lead to injury. It's just as simple as that. Then take it easy, build it up slowly. Do not avoid it. Do not avoid it, because if you feel pain or a lot of resistance with a certain pose, it means you actually have to focus on it. Poses that are easy have not so much to offer. It's the poses that you don't like, it's the poses that you feel resistance with, both physically and mentally, that have most to offer. And again, that's not only physical but also mental. It's practice of tapas, practice of austerity. Strengthening through undergoing discomfort, but in the yoga way, it means that you do that in a very sensible way. In a non-violent way.
Is your weight distributed evenly on this whole part?
That depends.
Okay.
That depends on your anatomy, and that depends also on the distribution of strength and weakness.
Okay.
Everybody will feel it differently. So, can somebody close the windows? They started the machines for the restaurants again. Thank you. Yep.
How about for children, this pose?
Children?
Yes, because in Korean,
Yeah.
the person always said, don't do this like this,
Why?
because it isn't good for some.
For the development of
Yes,
the
yes,
legs?
yes.
I think it is very good for the development of the legs. I think it's dogmatic to say that you shouldn't do that. I think many boys, when they play on the ground, they sit like this. Many girls, when they play, they very often sit
Yes, yes.
in Virasana. Let it be. It's very, for children it's very natural and very easy. And it's better if they do it when they're young, and they will be strong and flexible when they're older.
I think this pose build up very well the muscle.
Yeah. The muscles and the tendons, it does.
And the feet.
Yes, and the feet also. Good that you mentioned the feet. Many people suffer from what we call flat feet. Flat feet, if you have flat feet, it's very fatiguing, very difficult to stand when you have a job where you have to stand all day, like in a shop or any kind of job, or you have to walk a lot. People with flat feet is very, very exhausting. Flat feet means that you don't have this arch in the foot. So the structure of the foot is flattened. Virasana brings back some arch in the foot. It may not become perfect, but it will bring the resilience of flat foot occurs when the muscles are not keeping that arch together. When you do this pose, Virasana, especially for flat feet, is very good. Very auspicious. Auspicious pose. 22. Press the anus firmly with the ankles in opposite direction and sit well poised. This is Kurmasana according to the yogins. Kurma is a tortoise or a turtle. Kurmasana is an advanced pose. It may not look so advanced in the drawing, but it is a forward bend on steroids. It's a forward bend that is forced. Somewhere in those exercises described here, there will be Paschimottanasana. We have done standing version, Padangustasana, Padangusta Padahasta and Uttanasana. There is a seated version. Then Kurmasana, you put your knees as close to the shoulders as possible, and then you push your heels forward, so you forcibly bend. You forcibly bend forward. So only if you're already flexible in your forward bend will that be reasonably possible. You can try it out, but if you feel a lot of pain, resistance, don't push. This pose is part of my daily routine also.
Palms are.
First you spread the arms, but then you join the hands behind the back. And to do that, to join the hands behind the back, you cannot allow the feet to spread too wide. I see most of you who are doing it pretty well. Actually, the feet are spread too wide. You have to keep the feet closer together. And then eventually you wrap the arms around the back and you join the hands. So, if you put your feet a little closer, your hands are almost together with a little bit of help. See? Easy. You feel like a turtle now? Then we can make
I
soup.
feel that I can live 100 days.
It's very good.
Yeah, it's very intense. If you can't do it, and you just as a experiment want to pursue it, do it on a regular basis.
Very relaxing, I think.
Yes.
Very relaxing.
That's why turtles are so slow. They're very laid back. Okay. 23. Assuming the Padmasana, insert the hands between the thighs and the knees, planting them firmly on the ground. Then rise in the air. This is Kukuttasana. 24. Assuming the Kukuttasana posture, wind the arms around the neck and lie on the back like a tortoise. This is called Uttana Kurmasana. Uttana means spread out. So, did you see the picture? You start with Padmasana. The foot that is on top has to be locked in by your arm. So you have to start with this hand first. If the foot is on top, you start on that side, pushing your hand through. This is a test of your fire center. This is a test of your Manipura chakra. It's a test of your endurance, your patience, your whatever. So many qualities are being tested here. So you just keep smiling and you don't give up until you where you want to be. And then your arms fall off. Almost there. Kukutta is a rooster. You can do it. Nice, easy.
I like rooster feet.
So first we make turtle soup, and then we make rooster soup, chicken soup. Okay, let's go back to normal, Dhanurasana. Taking hold of the toes with the hands. Keep one arm stretched in front and draw the other up to the ear as if drawing a bow. This is called Dhanurasana. The drawing is not in line with the text. The text tells you to do this.
Yeah.
Dhanura is a bow. Akarna means at the ear. At the ear. Try it out. If you find it difficult to hold the toes, you can grab the edge of your foot. But in the description, it specifically tells you to hold the toes. If you pay attention, you feel it. You don't expect it, but you can feel Manipura chakra again being challenged. It's a very intense pose if you do it correctly. Akarna. You remember the ear from Karnapita. Akarna. Dhanura. Then the drawing, Dhamurasana, the bow pose, Dhamurasana, that is this. It will be in the schedule soon. It will appear in the schedule soon. Akarna Dhanura is a pose in the advanced course. Bring your elbow out, you have much more leverage.
Like you
It's
Like a bow.
the bow.
And I grab them.
Yes, to give you more misery. If you don't hold the other toe, it's much easier. So holding both toes and then pulling back, that creates very interesting dynamic. Activating muscles and parts of the body that you otherwise barely use in daily life.
And we're not supposed to go like this.
No, you pull back. You pull back as much as possible. Yes, exactly.
Means you open your chest.
Yeah, if you can.
It's hard part to open your chest.
I hear funny sounds. Yeah.
I'm not sure if you'll get to this, but I'm curious as to why these specific poses are here. Why are these poses here?
Okay. Why are these poses here? Because they are very effective for the purpose of yoga. That means in terms of energy. What is important is that you stand still in these poses. It's good that you asked that. I would have explained it a little bit later on, because there is a logic also in these poses. Before lunch, we have a number of poses, and then after lunch there is a kind of a specialization. You can consider the poses after lunch as very typical Kundalini poses. It's really working towards, like everything else in yoga, it's really working towards bringing energy up from the bottom to the top. It's all designed to awaken the crown chakra. And the reason why that is important is because without taking control of our condition, energy gravitates toward the bottom, where our lower emotions and desires are located, and that is how we function. So by taking control, reversing in religious scriptures, actually it's called the downfall. Often the downfall is the decline in civilization, but that is not. The downfall really is the condensation of energy towards the bottom, which leads indeed to loss of civilization. Because we start functioning as animals based on lower instincts. So literally downfall of the energy. We reverse that, bring it up. One thing to notice here is that ancient yogis, as far as the Hatha Yoga Pratipika is concerned, did not have standing poses. And I have heard the idea that standing poses were introduced not so long ago. And it is my thought that ancient people, they didn't need standing poses because there were no trains, buses, motorcycles, cars, and what have you. Ancient people used their legs a lot, more than they would like to. They didn't need standing pose. They needed to work on everything above the legs. In total contrast with that, the modern human being leads a sedentary life in general, and the legs have become incredibly weak compared with the strength they possessed when we didn't have all the luxury and comfort of modern development, modern technology. Okay, let's have a look at the next one, Sutra 26. Place the right foot at the base of the left thigh and the left foot outside the right knee. And remain with the body turned around. This is the asana described by Machendra. So Machendra, again, that is the fish that became human, the first human being. So the fact that the pose carries that name indicates it's an important pose. It is important that both buttocks stay on the ground. Very often people do it like this with one buttock off the ground. Why does the buttocks both need to stay on the ground? Because you want the spine to be straight, erect, while you twist. Now this pose has some variations in increasing intensity. It starts like this. You have to turn counter. So if this is your right leg, you embrace it with your left arm. If you go the other way, it doesn't work. But make sure that you sit straight. Erect your belly, erect your chest, stretch up your neck, then look over your shoulder. Look back. Now this is the first step. If you find it easy, you go to the next step. Then you use your arm as a lever, like in the drawing. You use your arm like this, and you push your hand back until you can grab your foot. So you put yourself stuck in this way. It increases the torsion of your spine considerably, but it also makes you bend your back. So you must deliberately erect. Step 2, not everybody can do. So if you find it difficult, limit yourself to step 1 for a time being. Then when you become more flexible, you try step 2. When you do step 1, I notice many times that my students are very passive. People just sit like this. It doesn't work. You have to pull that knee closer to your chest and at the same time erect the spine and try to twist as much as you can. Machendra was a king. King has royal characteristics, crown chakra. Twisting of the spine, simple as the exercise may seem to be or feel to be, but torsion of the spine activates all the chakras from the bottom going up. Try out. When you are upset, when you're filled with anger or any other emotion, try Machendrasana. It's the last thing that you think of when you're upset, but try it out next time. You will see that you immediately calm down. Why? Your emotion is in your belly. Then when you allow your anger to express, you're being upset. When you're emotional and you just allow that to be expressed, which is the normal way we do, it just magnifies the energy in the belly. If, however, you sit down and you do Machendrasana, energy rises up. It takes the energy away from that emotion. Not only that, the knife cuts both ways. Because energy now goes up to the level where you can start to reason and where you start contemplating. And you very naturally start contemplating led to the emotion. And so the sting is taken out of your emotion, your anger, or whatever it is that you're upset with. Very powerful. You notice it especially when you're out of balance, when you're upside down, when you're in a rage or whatever emotion is engulfing you. It's the last thing that you think of, but try it out, you will see. That's the only way to be convinced how special it is actually. Hence, it carries the name of the first human being, which was also a king. All symbolism, of course. But you see also, this pose is special because it's the first asana described not in only one sutra. Up until now, each of the asanas has been described with just one sutra. Here, Sutra 27 goes on about Machendra. This Machendrasana, which increases appetite by fanning the gastric fire, is a weapon that destroys all the terrible diseases of the body. With daily practice, it arouses the Kundalini and makes the moon steady in man. So, you read here what I tried to tell you before, that this pose has incredible qualities. Which increases appetite. You can actually ignore that. Gastric fire is your vital energy. We talked about that many times before. It's that energy of the 3 chakras combined in the belly that we in Korea call danjeon. It is a weapon. It is a weapon that destroys all the terrible diseases of the body. Why do we get sick? Because we have a disruption in our energy circulation. Technically, all disease starts with a blockage or a disharmony in the energy circulation. So the fact that this is called a weapon that destroys all diseases indicates what a big influence it has on our energy system, energy circulation. It arouses Kundalini, which is the torsion in the spine, activating all the chakras from the bottom up to Sahasrara chakra. And it makes the moon steady in man. I wish there were more men in our courses. I have said before, and I say again and again, men need yoga more than women. Here you see why. Because men are men. Men traditionally, based on hundreds, thousands of years of evolution, they have this instinct to fight. Not because we like to fight, but that is designed to protect ourselves and our family and our community. But that means when there is no war or no danger, that instinct is still there. And so you find with many men, subconsciously, there is a tension surrounding them. For me, it explains why I find it very difficult to work with men in business. When I work together with people, I have in the gym in Yoido, in downtown in Gwanghwamun, in Yangtze. When there are men involved in the management, it always leads to conflict. Always there is tension. Always there is unnecessary nonsense going on. Power play, power games. With women, never exists. So I prefer to work with women. I think I told you the story about when I was asked to work to manage the yoga program in Yoido, in the huge gym next to Yuksam building. I closed the school in Itaewon. I think I told you the story, so I will keep it very short so you remember what I told you. I closed the school in Itaewon, and 3 weeks after closing, the phone rang, and I was called by a guy called Ray, and he said, "Hey, Ron, come to Apgujeong, I want to talk with you. I want you to manage our yoga program in a new gym in Yoido." And I said, "No, I'm not interested." You remember? And he kept insisting. So I had nothing else to do, and I just went there anyway to meet him and drink coffee with him. And he was actually a pretty nice guy. Anyway, long story short, because you know it already, I ended up working with him because he does not have that tension around him that other people have, that other men have. And all the people that he worked with, all the managers, all women. Making the moon steady in man. What is the moon? Where does man's aggression come from? That tension, that need to conquer. Where does it come from? From the bottom, Shakti. The making the moon steady in man means allowing Shiva to compensate for that overdose of Shakti that most men possess. And so harmony occurs. The men who practice yoga, they lose that sharp edge that most men have, also in the modern world that we live in. And that's why I think men need yoga more than women. Good. 28. Stretch out both legs on the ground without bending them, and having taken hold of the toes of the feet with the hands, place the forehead upon the knees and rest thus. This is Paschimottanasana. The text is not correct because over time, throughout the centuries that the text existed, has been translated and misinterpreted. First of all, the pose is simple. We just did it before. The Paschimottanasana is a forward bend, of which so far we have done the standing variation, but the first mistake the text is making is that you bend your back and you put your head on your knees. Bending the back never adds anything to an asana. There is no asana where you passively bend the back, just in order to put your nose on your knees. Why? This pose is about bending the hips. And when you bend your back passively, your hips are not activated. So you try to, before you actually bend forward, you stretch out actively and you try to bend forward without bending the upper body, so that all the movement comes from the hips. And what seems to be a very simple pose, easy, becomes very sophisticated if you do it correctly. And if you add to that standing still, not moving, it's a very, very nice pose. You stay in the pose for a minute or so, you come out of it and you feel very, well, you can say high. You feel high, you feel contemplative. Usually we do this indeed by bending the back and trying to put up, but not only that, we bounce. And so there is never a yoga effect here. There is never that energy effect that you can get that makes the exercise very special. So whenever stretching, even if you do it as a warming up or a cooling down, just do it in the yoga way. It adds so much more to what you're doing. It's still a good warming up or cooling down before or after exercise.
Ron,
Don't bounce. Yes?
I have a question about the seated postures. When we're doing standing postures, we usually allow the energy to settle in Tadasana. But what posture do you normally go into between seated postures to allow the energy to settle?
Either Sukhasana or Savasana. It depends on the pose. With Paschimottanasana, depends on the pose that comes after. If you do a shoulder stand after Paschimottanasana, you lie down. But if you do Ardha Machendrasana, then you sit in Sukhasana for a moment and then you go. Yeah, depends on where you are at. Good question also. Also, when you do floor pose, always take a little rest in between. Remember, that is the most important stage, in fact, where the effect of the exercise settles down. So Paschimottanasana, like the previous pose also, deserves another sutra to describe, indicating that it is more than just an average or simple pose. 29. This most excellent of all asanas, Paschimottana, makes the energy flow through Sushumna, stimulates the gastric fire, makes the loins lean, and removes all diseases of men. So it is even called most excellent of all asanas. It's not just the asana, it's more than that. It makes the energy run through Sushumna. You remember what Sushumna is? That is the third channel that becomes activated when sattva occurs. I kind of told you in the introduction how nice this pose is if you do it correctly, and that is because sattva occurs. Sushumna nadi opening up, being activated, tells us that sattva has occurred, allowing energy to rise up. Stimulates the gastric fire, so it increases vitality, increases health, overall health in general. It makes the loins lean, makes the legs and the hips flexible. It removes all diseases of men. Don't know exactly what they mean with that. It can mean a lot, but generally men are rather stiff in and around the hips. Yes? Neda?
Maybe removing diseases of men can be removing Shakti diseases?
That is possible. It can be interpreted in various ways, I think. And probably means also various things, not just only one.
Yes.
But the question is, what did ancient people consider to be diseases of men? It can be biological, physical. It can also be psychological, mental.
It could be all of mankind or men.
You know, actually what is described in the previous and this, making the moon steady in men and removing all diseases of men. I think you can write this with every asana. I think every asana, to some extent, has that effect.
Thank you.
30. Plant the hands firmly on the ground and support on the elbows the sides of the navel. Raised in an elevated posture in the air like a rod. This position they call Mayurasana. 31. The Mayurasana cures quickly all diseases like gulma, udara, and other stomach diseases, etc., and overcomes the imbalance of the humors, namely Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. It reduces to ashes all food indiscriminately taken, kindles the gastric fire, and causes to be digested even the kalakuta, a terrible poison. We've done Mayurasana, of course, already, many times, and a variation with Padmasana. Again, a very extraordinary exercise if you look at the description. Then the description is not a fairy tale. If you do an exercise regularly, you will actually see that the benefits described are taking place. But, like all alternative medicine, as we call it, Oriental medicine, it requires that you do it regularly. If you practice yoga regularly, you will see that indeed all the benefits described you will benefit from, you will receive. So, no surprise that it centers around the belly, because there is a huge pressure on your abdomen when you lean, when you balance on your elbows in Mayurasana. And you can feel that also. It is the reason why people find it difficult to do. So it strengthens not only the muscles, but internal, the organs. It reduces to ashes all food indiscriminately taken. Means that, you know, if you apply this to modern life, there are many foods that are actually not so auspicious, not so healthy, because a lot of food is processed and contains a lot of unnatural ingredients, chemicals and what have you. As a result, many people are in fact suffering from problems with the digestion in one form or another. This exercise is so powerful. Actually, what it is saying is you can even swallow poison and not die from it. That is how big the influence of Mayurasana is on your digestion. That is symbolism, of course. That is a symbolical way to describe its power. I do not recommend that you try to swallow poison and then see if you can survive, but there are yogis that actually literally do this. They ingest a lethal dose of poison, or maybe it's a trick, but they do that to show, to establish that they are truly a yogi. Because after all, it's written in the text. So lots of the symbolism that you find in traditional yogis, with the magic that they show, and there are yogis who have themselves buried on the ground for up to 6 months even, and then they are dug up and they wake up. That is inhuman. But the reason why they do that is not to brag. The reason why they do that is not to pump up their ego, like I can do something that you can do, but it is really to establish where they are in terms of their development. In the same way that Svatmarama uses invocations to Shiva in Sutra 1, teaching his wife Parvati on the beach yoga, and Machendra, who overheard those teachings and became the first human being, etc. It's kind of like that. That is how ancient people functioned. If you can swallow poison and survive, well, then you must be a real yogi. That is the idea behind it. For us modern human beings, being disconnected from that ancient reality, we think it is all magic tricks and what have you, but it did have an essential function in ancient times. 32. That is your favorite pose, I'm sure. Lying on the back on the ground like a corpse is Savasana. Savasana removes fatigue and induces repose of mind. I have nothing to add to that. You will have no problem with Savasana. Sutra 33 then continues with kind of a special section of asanas, and we will come to that after lunch. Questions about what we've read so far? Yeah, nothing really exciting, except for the exercises maybe if you try, but no deep philosophical conversations today. Kind of a day off for most of you. Okay, let's have a short break.